Hello and welcome back to 20 Games in 30 Days. We are on game number 7. I decided to look at Cookie Clicker, and right off the bat you may notice something looks a little off. So, funny story with that, I just recorded about 13 hours with a video as I was creating this game, and I went to open it up in Premiere, and lo and behold, I had messed up my OBS on accident. I clicked and drug, and this thing moved off to the side. So there we go. Fixed it. If this video looks a little different and I make some weird editing decisions, that would be why. I am trying to recover all of this lost footage, which is kind of unfortunate. Anyways, let's jump in. So right off the bat, I got a little bit sidetracked. I spent somewhere between 4 and 6 hours adding the first button to the game. On top of that, I also ran it overnight for about 8 hours to see how it turned out. And so the reason for that I wasn't just adding a button. I also was working on the main algorithm for this game. So it is a little bit more complex than Cookie Clicker. What I have is there is a single large post button that you click. When you click that, it'll generate a number of likes per post. And those likes will then translate into a few followers. Now, you can, buy the helpers that will click for you, so they'll click that post button, but the followers translate into a follower factor, which feeds back in and is multiplied by the kind of post-based power to give you more likes per post once you've gathered followers. Now, the problem with that, I learned, is when I ran it overnight, I quickly saw that this is exponential. Actually, I think it's quadratic, but anyways, it time-shifted quadratic, sure, but it keeps adding more and more and more and more. So the solution there is just to add a square root to that. The follower factor was square rooted to counteract the squaring that happens there. So that was my kind of solution for this. And it is a little bit more complicated than Cookie Clicker, but I think it works a lot better for a social media simulator. One note on this, I actually changed my frame rate from 60 frames per second down to 10. And the reason for that is all of my math is being done on a physics tick. And I did a lot of math in a spreadsheet, but I also had to do a lot of math in my head. And dividing by 10 is just so much easier than dividing by 60. So I did that, and it's a slow enough game that you don't notice, but all of my math is based on that of a 10 frames per second frame rate, and I'm running in the physics tick. So the next part, now that I have this algorithm set up, is to add the little helpers on the side. So the idea here is that you can grow faster with them than you can just by clicking the button on your own. And that's what elevates the clicker game from just clicking on something to being a little bit more of a light management sim. So I added a few of these and defined the code here of what all is needed in a helper and what's unique between them. So they have a name, they have a few different values. And this is the next part where I got hung up. I definitely let perfect be the enemy of good on this project a number of times. I ended up going through a series of playtest revisions where I was playing Cookie Clicker and my game side by side and comparing essentially everything on it. One run, I had an auto clicker set for both games. I coded mine in my game and was just using a standard auto clicker on Cookie Clicker and wanted to see how the two side by side with an auto clicker would compare. And then I played the game a second time where I only clicked 15 times on Cookie Clicker, 2 times on my game to purchase a single helper for each, and then again compared the two to see how long it would take to reach the end. And yeah, I played a lot of Cookie Clicker. So this was my next kind of massive slowdown as I was slowly refining this. At this point, I have essentially a Cookie Clicker clone with my own math behind it. And this is where I now deviated a little bit because my next two things I added, first off, is a post scroller. So what this is going to do is every time you click post, it's going to throw some text up there. And then the next thing I realized I need to add is if you have text being placed up there, you need a text box that you can edit it in. So this doesn't actually affect gameplay because it is a clicker game, but it is fun to be able to type in your own messages and they show up. So as you click that, they will come scrolling down through, and then all of the auto posters on the side will also throw in messages. And what I end up doing for those is I'm going to color code them so you can tell which one is coming from your community manager versus your child labor. And now we are back to the present. I have my OBS is fixed, and we are kind of halfway through this. Okay, I am voiceovering from the future, but I thought at this moment that I was basically done with the game, and that turned out to just not be true. I kept adding thing after thing after thing, and it definitely drug on, and I said so many times, this is my last video, or I'm almost done, or I just need to make one more thing, or I'll just push it out to later, and it just kept going and going and going. The bulk of that time was actually spent simply producing content. So each one of your helpers is going to have a number of different things they can say. And I loaded it where the first ones say more things because you're going to see them more often, and the later ones say fewer things. But even so, altogether, I probably wrote around 200 different little phrases or sayings, or went and Googled and found something interesting. And in very late in development, I actually replaced my second unpaid intern with a box of fortune cookies. And that was I think, great addition because I could just go Google funny fortune cookies and put some of those in there. It's supposed to be a cacophony where every individual has their own personality and the things they say are hopefully fairly well aligned. And each one individually makes sense, but together they just become kind of a humorous juxtaposition, was at least the intent. We'll see how well I actually made that work. So I did decide to clean up the post column a little bit more, and then I just made them smaller. They all fit within. There's no scroll bar or anything, and because I'm using a fixed window size, I kind of just cheated it where it looks like a Facebook Center thing, but it actually is a fixed number of items, and the way that those posts do work is they do cascade, so it will each post will actually pass the text and the color to the one below it. They don't actually move. It just is the appearance of movement. So that's how those work. Another small thing is I sat down for a couple minutes and figured out how to add commas in. That is not a built-in function in Godot. I know Godot is GDScript is loosely based on Python, and Python does have those options. Unfortunately, GDScript is not made from Python. It's just loosely based around it, so it does not have those same options that you might be familiar with. So I had to kind of settle there and just make my own function, but I put commas in everywhere, and that made it a lot nicer. I just did a bunch of nice little things here and there. Another thing you notice I'm procrastinating on quite a bit is I add these images, and I actually put in a default empty image of just the kind of standard empty profile picture here, and I spent a lot of time not actually going online and downloading art. And it turns out downloading art did not take very much time. It just took me a long time to get around to deciding to actually do it. And again, that was another thing that was kind of interesting. I found if you are looking for art that is a non-commercial licensed, you don't actually want to use Google. I was having so much trouble finding anything remotely decent, even though I'm Googling very generic terms. I ended up trying DuckDuckGo, and it just worked. I just found so much art, and it was great. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going back to that one. Next time I need art, DuckDuckGo is going to be my search engine of choice. So with those avatars downloaded and put in, the next step I decided is the colors were just way too much. So here I'm just making it a simple gradient instead. So this is still the same thing I was doing before, where it's showing the colors, and those colors come, each one is different for each of the helpers that's posting on your behalf. And I probably should make this clear, or maybe actually just have a tutorial or something. But anyway, this is what I decided to do. So it's the same thing it was before, except the colors are now being placed there. So that's just a little bit smoother. And then once I finished this, the final thing, like I said before, is just to fill out all of the content. So I'm not going to show all the things I wrote, partially because I actually think this game, it might be worth playing if you have a few minutes. So you can go look at it yourself. But I did spend a lot of time on that. this is a good opportunity to actually bring up. I did get some good feedback after my last video. A lot of people said that they thought the 20 games in 30 days concept was really, really cool. But one bit of criticism I received was that the 30 days part was going to hold me back. That there's no way I could manage to make all these games in 48-hour game jams. And honestly, I think that was very good and fair criticism. So I spent some time thinking about it and decided, I like the idea of 20 games in 30 days. I'm going to stick with the name and the concept, but the change I'm making is instead of doing one game has to be done within 1 or 2 calendar days, right? Sit down, 24 or 48 hours. I instead changed it to say I have 720 total hours of active development to make all these games. So each game, I'm going to round it off to the nearest 1 or 2 days. This one did become a 2-day project, somehow, kind of surprisingly. Either way, it was, I think it was a good change. It took me a lot more time to make this game, but I also am a lot happier with the result, and it gave me a lot of time to just kind of play test and tweak things that wasn't actively eating into my development time. It doesn't feel quite as much like a game jam game, even though it definitely still was. Now that I've spent all this time making all this content, I actually want people to see it. And that is a problem because the first few, the untrained monkey and the trained monkey that are at the very, very top, you're going to see everything they have to say. But the ones down at the bottom, I put some things that I thought were kind of funny or clever, but they're just going to be going by way too fast. So I decided to take some time to also add a mute button. Yeah, so the mute button will only appear once you've purchased enough helpers and you're maybe wanting them to shut up. So again, I probably would actually want to add a tutorial in the future because this is not clearly explained that they are still contributing to the score. You just can't see them. And with that, I think this game is about done. So I'm going to push my kind of first version. Like I said, I'm going to be making my own itch store page for this, and we're going to get that up. I just realized I had set out with this game to only really do 2 technical things. So a lot of this was looking at kind of psychology of clicker games. The 2 things that I wanted to learn as far as technical skills. One was how to deal with menus. I have done them a bit, but don't really like them. And so I thought it'd be nice to take some time and learn how to make something that is appealing on a menu side. This game really is just a menu. There's not really traditional gameplay elements in here. So that was the one thing. The other one, which I realized I completely forgot about, was saving and loading. This game still does not save my progress. And unfortunately, I've done multiple games in the 20 Games in 30 Days series, and exactly 0 actually saved the disk, which is a problem because I have a lot of games with high scores, and you can't, load it up again if you have to keep the game open all the time for it to remember it. So I really need to sit down and get that working. And unfortunately, because I am over time, I need to be quick about it. So I got this working real quick. It turns out it is only 3 lines of code to save and 3 lines of code to load. Unfortunately, you still need to get the data in and out of a data structure, and because I didn't plan ahead, I ended up doing something that is really hacky and janky, but it works. So I'm basically creating a dictionary, stuffing everything in it on the save game side, and then on the load game side, I am pulling everything out of the exact same dictionary, and there are no checks, and it is very hacky and a little bit, messy and dangerous, but you know what? It is a game, and it works, so we're sticking with that. And as long as nobody messes with their save files, it shouldn't crash anything. Now this game is a little bit special because it is based off of a browser game. I thought it would only be fair if this game was playable in the browser, and that means that it gets its own itch page. It will also be downloadable as a part of the bundle, but it's going to be deployed to its own page. So thankfully, a few episodes back, I think I did that as an episode. Anyways, I had designed a automatic deployment system that was a single click, and it did not fail me. I was able to deploy straight to a new itch page, and I learned early on that you want to underpromise and overdeliver. However, when you're making a 2-day game jam type game that is obviously not going to be great, I found that a alternative winning combination is bodacious and pretentious. Because when you create a game that declares itself an unrivaled work of art and the greatest clicker game of all time, what will happen is people will play the game and it'll be a kind of mediocre okay, but instead of going, hey, that game is mediocre and okay, they will notice your descriptions and they will realize that they're being invited to take part in a joke, and they will take part in the joke and they will enjoy your game much more than they have any right to. So I am going with that strategy, and yes, this is an unrivaled work of art. Thank you for asking. So that is my itch update. I'll have a link there as well, so you can play this game in the browser. You don't have to download it, but it will also be available on the other page as well with the bundle. Hello, welcome to the final end of the video part. I am, yeah, I'm gonna do something, I guess, a little bit different. So I mentioned at the beginning that I wanted to not just make a game, but also explore some themes, and specifically some of the kind of idle game tendencies that have leaked into all of game design. So I was gonna do that at the end. It didn't seem like it was a good place to fit it, but I also, if you've noticed, I have been posting videos every 2 to 3 weeks, and most recently I took a 2.5 month hiatus. So I wanted to share a little bit of what happened there and share a bit of my story. And so I'm just going to throw up a warning because I will be talking about loss. So if that's more than you bargained for in a Goofy Game Jam video, no worries. You can jump ahead or catch me on the next video. I'll be back with Mario, hopefully next time. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about how to navigate this journey well that I'm on. And if you asked me in December, or if you told me that December, you're gonna have, I don't know, 1,000 or 10,000 or a million subscribers, like I might have believed you. Like I think at this point now, that's becoming a lot more believable. And seeing where I am and seeing the growth that I've already experienced, it's less of a question of if but when. And so. But that puts me in an interesting place because I've never been the social media guy. I've never gotten into social media. I remember after Jessica and I got married and posted, some wedding pictures and got like 100 likes, and then a friend of mine posted a picture of their sandwich and got like 200. And that's the way it's always been for me. So um, on February 14th I posted my last video, and that took me from an average of a couple hundred views a video to that one got like a couple thousand, and I got like I'm nearing 200 subscribers now. I was at like less than 100, and a huge jump, huge kind of milestone there. But during that same season, the exact same day that I was posting that video, Jessica and I were in and out of the hospital trying to figure things out, and we ended up suffering a miscarriage. So we were dealing with loss. We were, of our first child, and I ended up taking when it's all said and done, it turned out it was a 40-day hiatus where I didn't touch game development. I didn't touch this whole project at all. Coming back now, it's not really an accident that, I mentioned at the beginning, I watched a video from People Make Games and thought, hey, clicker games would be really cool to explore a bit. But it's not an accident that the theme of this clicker game was social media and generating likes and follows. Because I guess I came to realize that, a lot of the things that we talk about in game design that have people concerned are the same things that we talk about in social media world and in a lot of other areas. And I think at the end of the day, we all have a tendency to just start playing cookie clicker with our lives, where we make it all about some number, and whether that number is a number of dollars, a number of subscribers or followers, or whatever it is, and we miss the journey along the way, because everything's about the number. So, and so as I mentioned the loot boxes and some of those kind of things, but I don't really think the issue lies in that direction. I feel like being a game developer is in a lot of ways like being a bartender, where yes, you are dealing with potentially dangerous, potentially harmful substances, but it's not that they're bad; it's that they can be abused, and but there is a danger of how you mix it and how much of what thing you put in. And if your goal is to maximize, to use that bartender analogy, if you're a bartender and your goal is to maximize your sales and the number of drinks you sell, you will cause people to stumble and fall. Because you are pushing them to take more than is good for them, because your goal isn't their health, your goal is your profits. And that's a difficult line a lot of people are going to have to walk. That's conversations that have already happened. I am thankful that for me, I don't really have to take part in that conversation too much of, well, I want to make a whole bunch of money, so how much is too much? For me, the goal has always been a different direction. And so I think my answer here is not to is to simply not focus on the numbers and to say, you know what, am I am thankful for how far I've gotten. I'm excited for what the future holds. We probably will celebrate some of those milestones as they come, but I'm not going to spend all my time fixating on those milestones and trying to push up the numbers. I think where I've landed on all this is, for me, my channel name is SdgGames, and I haven't talked about that a lot, but the SdG is short for Soli Deo Gloria, and that was a Latin phrase that came out of the Protestant Reformation, 500 years ago. And during that time, people were abusing their power a lot. And so that phrase became one of the kind of five solae of the Reformation. And it simply means glory be to God alone. But it was picked up by a number of artists over time, and I think Bach was the most famous one who did this. But they would create work, and they would sign it with the letters SdG, and in doing that, they were indicating that this is not designed for my glory, to make my name great, and is not designed to make my numbers go up. Um, and they gave the glory away. And that idea has been, I think, foundational for me. Of um, I can avoid so many, I think, snares and pitfalls by just choosing to give the glory away. So that's kind of the way that I'm going to keep doing this. But that means that there are going to probably be a number of times where I choose to take a path that is a little bit less traveled, that is a little bit different from the mainstream way of doing things. And I guess I just want to say that yes, I am very deliberate in those decisions. Of I am paying very close attention to the best practice way to run and maximize a game studio. And I have spent a lot of time watching GDC talks and learning those things. But I also, I think there are places where I am deliberately choosing to deviate from that path, in the hope that I will arrive at the destination I actually want to be at. I think it'd be unfortunate if I don't ever make a game that influences people, but I think it would be disastrous if I succeed at making a game and I don't meet that goal. So I am going to take some risks, and I'm going to I'm going to continue on this path, but it's going to maybe look a little unusual in places, and that's why. So yeah, I'm really bad at ending these things, but thank you for listening to all that. And yeah, I'll be back next time with a little bit more. Hey, a little bit more content, but I'll be working on Mario game. I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but I do have a Discord. There's like two people on it, so hey, if you want to jump in, I'd love to hear your story as well. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.